So with this one, I'm just about to finish off tightening up the hoses underneath the radiator with that radiator install. So I'll show you how I'm able to reach it without even lifting the vehicle on jack stands or any jacks. It's a low car, but it's plenty of space under there. So I'll show you how I'm doing this. Let's see if we can see anything. So under here, it's missing. So not missing any, but how can we see this? How are we gonna do this? So I've got these clamps on it here. This is clamping the hoses for the cooling hose. This is an automatic transmission. So under here, so I clamped it off here so it wouldn't leak all over the floor here. You don't want to make a mess. And up there, that's where I'm tightening up these hoses. One there, and the other one is over here, right there. That one over there I've already put on, it's tight. It's just this one over here, right there, got it on a little electric spanner. I'm just turning it like that. Oops. Actually, sorry, I have already tightened this one. So I want to make sure it is tight enough. Do it. So again, finger tight, don't need to go too far, just with your fingers like that. And then just make sure that they're tight enough just by twisting them a little bit to test it. If they're not turning, then they're tight enough. Release the hose clamp there. Alright. That's it. And the big radiator hose under there as well. I'm going to show you that one. It's got a spring clamp underneath holding it. I don't know if you can see that. So I've got this cable going to it right there. It's already applied. So I'm just going to release the tension on it. Can you see it? Can you see it? There it is. There it is, and it's already popped off. That's good. That's tight. It's fairly easier to see from the other side. Oh, going 360. So that's the oil and coolant that's dripped out into this drip tray. Does now it makes a nice effect. Huh. It's really nice. Oil is very dirty. This is transmission oil mixed with coolant. So that sign right there is that the transmission needs to be serviced. This transmission needs to be serviced. I'll do that later. So all these hoses up here, top hose, they're all tight, nice and tight. You can tell by just twisting them like that. If they don't rotate, they're tight enough. Don't need to go any further. Fan shroud is in, nice and tight. Oopsie daisy, right there, look what I've done. Something is rattling. See, the radiator's rattling there. And compared to this side, the other side, no movement at all. This is how you check for tightness in a radiator. If you see that, then obviously something's missing. what's missing is this rubber here. It's quite important. This rubber for the top mount here goes in between this bracket and the radiator. It gets sandwiched in between. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this nut, this bolt, and slip this under so this doesn't rattle anymore. So if you have any issues with your radiator making that rattling noise when you go over bumps, it's most likely these rubber mounts are missing or they're worn out. You can order these from Toyota. They're not very expensive, I'm sure. So we're ready now, I guess, to start filling up the radiator, the coolant. Here, it's very, very important to check this. It's like a little pickup and a filter. It's a pickup and a filter for your reserve bottle. Make sure that that's clean. It's not too blocked. That looks alright. And also, just remove this bottle. Every now and then, or after some time, you really need to take this out. Let it slide out that rail. Okay. These are the rails that it slides into right there. That's a track there. And it goes through there. Every now and then, take that out and just empty the contents. Look at that. It's good to clean that out by just, emptying it as well. Otherwise, when you put the new coolant in, this old stuff in the reserve bottle will mix with the new coolant. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a rinse as well under the tap. Give it a shake. Check it out. Look at all the mud that sits underneath that. That's one good sign that, actually it's a bad sign. That is a good indicator of what was in the old radiator. You get a good sample of it this way. Look at that. It's getting cleaner. So by changing that radiator, what we've done is we've removed most of this debris, this sand that has been stuck in there for probably many, many years. Do it a couple of times. Check it around. If it's really, really bad, might be a good idea to get a little brush and just brush it in there. When we're done washing it out, there's a full mark there, the low mark. Just go ahead and fill this up. It's the full mark. And then I'll add a little bit of coolant when I'm done. Alright, let's put this back. Just in the track there. There we go. With this radiator, I'll be using corrosion inhibitor, the concentrated version. So I can just mix it with that. So here it is right here. That's mine there. So just add a little bit of coolant in there. It's a dash. Just a little bit, not much. Also add corrosion inhibitor in the radiator. Oh. Okay, so let's do an initial fill of the radiator. With a cold engine, you want to do this first with it off, not running, until it's full. So this is our initial fill. Just keep going. It'll probably take almost 4 liters if it's completely empty. A little less, a lot less if it's not completely empty. Right now this radiator is completely empty, so it'll probably take about 4. Just keep topping it up until it's full. And remember, I've already put the coolant in there, the corrosion inhibitor. Make sure you check your service manual for which type of coolant it needs for your car and country, because they do vary for different states, different environments. If you're living in a colder climate, we need a different kind. If you live in a hot desert environment, then you need a different kind again. So you really have to be careful with which one you use. See the bubbles? It's full now. Oh, yeah, it's full now. So what I'm going to do now is, now that it's full, I'll get the engine started and we'll start the bleeding process. And the bleeding process is really just to get the air bubbles out of this whole system, out of this radiator, this cooling system. All the air needs to come out. So I'll get it started. And when you're bleeding this system, your cooling system, make sure you run it until the engine is starting to get warm, until it gets warm. And you start to see or notice bubbles coming out of here. Until the bubbles stop, bubbling out, you don't stop bleeding it. Sometimes it may require multiple bleeding sessions. Maybe you bleed one today, then you bleed it again tomorrow, and just keep checking it until there's no more air bubbles coming out of there. If you can't stop the air bubbles coming out of your radiator, your cooling system, then you might have a fault with your head gasket. It might be leaking and you need to get that checked. Temperatures on cold. Make sure everything is looking normal. There's no air bubbles. It's flowing. You can tell because the coolant is coming up that I put in earlier. The coolant is starting to mix with the water. It's pouring out. That's a good sign. It's flowing. There's the air bubbles now. That's a good sign. So I'm gonna let it run like that for a couple of, maybe 5 minutes or so, until it stops bubbling. Then I'll switch it off, let it cool down, and then add some more water. So far it looks good. There's not very much air bubbles in this system. There we go. The thermostat is starting to open up now. There we go. It's bleeding now. The air bubbles. There's the coolant. It's mixing up nicely.